Welcome to the Kung Fu Mama Show. Today we have Dr. Fiona Tassoni. She is a doctor of Chinese medicine specializing in fertility with a master's degree in Chinese herbal medicine. Hi, Fiona. How are you today?
I'm very well, Sarah. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to speak with you today. Well, of course, because I'm also Chinese and I do also, do Chinese medicine sometimes, also Chinese breastfeeding tea as well right now. So this is quite an interesting topic for me. So can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to go into Chinese medicine?
Yeah, well, I never thought that I'd be putting needles into people or prescribing herbs. I was actually going to be a lawyer and I was a legal PA in London. And I remember I had this really bad back pain and it was like an injury that I'd suffered when I was 15. I had a water skiing accident and I had a posterior bulge. And basically the bulge was there for like 6 years. So I was in London working as a legal PA for a law firm, doing the international tourism thing of traveling the world and seeing the world. And it was a way for me to make money while I was there living and working. But my back pain was so incredibly painful that I just remember walking down Tottenham Court Road and seeing this sign, acupuncture for back pain. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose, At that stage, I was wearing a three-piece suit. I was in stilettos and probably not the best attire for back pain. But I walked in and this little Chinese man, he said to me, how's your pain? What's your period like? And, and he said, so I jumped up on the bed. I had this acupuncture and never knew about acupuncture. I didn't know what it involved. I didn't know how long the needles were retained. Anyway, my pain was about a 9 out of 10 on that day. After the session, it reduced to about a 5 out of 10. And he said, take these herbs, go home, come back in 2 weeks. So I came back in 2 weeks. I had another session. Again, he says, come back in 2 weeks. Well, I never went back because after the second session, not only did the pain completely resolve, now I had pain for 6 years and I just thought, this is a miracle. How is this possible? These fine needles, these Chinese herbs, balancing my hormones. And I just felt incredibly calm. I felt energized. I felt better. So I wanted to know everything about Chinese medicine. The Tao Te Ching became my Bible. And I then thought, well, I don't really think I'm going to be a lawyer. I want to do something. This has inspired my life. It's changed my life. Because when you're in a prison of pain and chronic pain, you don't realize how intense the pain is until it actually stops. And so I was just awe-inspired. So I had my parents send over the prospectus to come back to Australia to study Chinese medicine in Australia. So I applied to Melbourne and to Sydney and I got accepted just on my application with Victoria University of Technology in Melbourne. So amazing. I did a full 360 from law, contrary to my parents' dismay. I think they wanted me to be a lawyer because Chinese medicine was really in its infancy back then. Not many people were aware of the benefits. It wasn't mainstream health. It was still being accepted into, the Western medicine model. So it was only just, as I was coming into the profession, it was only being recognised by Western medicine at that time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why I went down that path. I actually never envisaged myself putting needles in somebody or having someone as my pincushion.
Of course. So that was an amazing story. So did you ever go back to this man that healed you and changed your life?
No, and I feel really bad about that. It was like London is so busy. And at the time, I was working around the clock and I was trying to save up the money to come back to Australia to study. And I kept thinking, I've got to go and thank this little man that changed my life, that healed my pain, and to thank him. But I never got to do that. So, it is something that I think about. But I always have such love and gratitude for this little person, this stranger in my past that changed my life.
Okay, well, shout out to this man. Okay, so now you're also specializing in fertility, though. So why is that you chose to go in that path?
Well, when I first started in practice, I thought that I would be working more in musculoskeletal things because of my injury. I thought that I would be merging down that path. But what was coming into the clinic was more and more women. I was attracting women as patients. And, in Chinese medicine, the menstrual cycle is such a pillar of health. It's one of the fifth vital signs. It's a measure of a woman's overall health in terms of their hormones. So I was seeing more and more women having issues with ovulatory disorders, endometriosis, fibroids, strange things going on with periods like either clotting disorders or excessive bleeding. Sometimes women were not even bleeding. They were suffering from amenorrhea, which is an absence of periods. And then I was finding that these women, because I was in practice for so long, they were then wanting to have babies. And clearly I was starting to work with them during that process. So it just became a natural way that I moved in my business. And then it became, I started working with the husbands. I started to see, over the last 10 years, I've seen a global decline in sperm. So now I'm working a lot more with couples, in this journey. So it was really it's not something that I started out thinking I was going to be working in fertility, but it's just what your supply and demand, basically.
Right.
I have a passion for empowering women. I love helping women. And it just seemed gynecologically that was where they were needing my help.
Amazing. So what's the most shocking thing that you've learned about Chinese medicine? I mean, to you, especially it was so shocking in the beginning.
I think for me, it's about, using animals for Chinese herbs and things like that, extracting bile from animals and panda bears and things like that, which I found really upsetting. So it was something for me, practicing the Chinese herbs, only specializing, with plants and plant extracts and tubers and things, because I'm an animal activist. I love animals. So that part of the Chinese medicine is something that didn't sit well with me.
I see. So you use only herbal medicine.
Yeah.
I think most practitioners use mostly the herbal
nowadays,
herbal medicines. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially with the rise of PETA and all those organisations that are protecting those endangered animals. So but it does. It makes my heart sink and makes me really teary when I look at animals in cages and being used as medicine.
Was that something you learned in school, that's what that was used?
Yeah, it was more the exposure.
Wow.
When I first started, the thing is, when I first started, I started in acupuncture. And so the Chinese herbal medicine is something that came secondary. So I did my undergraduate in acupuncture, a Bachelor of Health Science, and then I did my master's in Chinese herbs after that. So it was only as I started to understand and the controversy around the Chinese herbs and, the animal rights became such an issue for me. So,
I see.
I'm a big fan of protecting the animals.
Yeah, that's very important. Okay, and we have our little baby girl riding away on her little truck, which is the noise that you hear if you were to hear the noise in the background.
Is that little Carly?
Little Carly, yep. All right.
Oh, how old's Carly?
She is 2 years old and 4 months, I believe now.
Oh, it's a cute age. So Miss Chattybox.
Oh yeah. She loves talking about it. She's starting to call us by our first names now. I'm really a bit concerned.
It's like not mum, it's like Sarah.
Yeah. That's right.
Listen to me, Sarah.
It's so funny. So can you tell us a little bit more about how women are able to conceive naturally through Chinese medicine first without using IVF?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of women that, they are unnecessarily encouraged to do IVF and they don't need to. I mean, part of the Chinese medical model is understanding what the root cause is. And it could be just issues with ovulation. It could be issues with their blood deficiency. They might not be having enough blood to nourish the follicles to develop. So it's really about understanding each and everyone's individual's root cause of infertility or why they're having challenges. And then it's about understanding your cycle. So I get women to chart their cycle. I normally get them to do BBT charting because the charting actually gives you the empirical data that you can understand what's happening with the hormones in the follicular phase and the luteal phase. It can really pinpoint where ovulation's occurring so that you can time sex. Because you need to remember, you are most fertile leading up to the days and the day of ovulation. So those 5 days leading up to and on the day of ovulation are your fertile zone. The sperm can actually survive for up to fertile in the fertility tract, in the fallopian tubes, for up to 5 days. So that's why getting to know your cycle is one of the features that I do when I'm working with women, so that they get to understand their body's innate wisdom. You know, we have a language, and it's about observing the telltale signs, things like your cervical mucus. You know, you can put your fingers in your vagina and just see what's happening. Is it more like glue? Is it the sticky, egg white, slippery mucus, which is your fertile mucus? And that's what protects the sperm. So understanding those cervical mucus changes, I teach women about that. Some women have a lot of mucus, some people don't. And, you know, it's teaching women to understand, it doesn't feel wet and slippery between their legs. Well, they're fertile indicators that you're waxing onto your ovulation. So it's a good time to be having sex. So it's about maximizing those zones, understanding what to do in those phases, how to support your nutrition, how to support your hormones in those different phases. It's a real science, and you can see, once you start to see the BPD charting, which is your basal body temperature at rest, and you can see it on a chart, it almost looks like a heart monitor. So in the follicular phase, you'll have lower temperatures, and then as we reach ovulation, your temperatures start to warm up. And then progesterone is the warming hormone. So you'll see the temperatures rising. So it's really interesting to look at your charts, and you become like a scientist. You can really pinpoint this.
Wow. So that's amazing. So if, say, there's a woman who has not been able to produce a child an entire year, for example, do you have patients like that?
I do. Look, and the thing is, normally, when women have been trying for 12 months, they'll do investigations. And especially if they have been trying, I normally want to test to see if there are any structural issues. You know, so I'll get people to do a pelvic ultrasound, see if the lining's good, make sure there's no structural issues going on, like fibroids, cysts on the ovaries, things like that. So you need to conduct some of the investigations, get a full blood examination. I get women to do a hormone profile. So it's almost merging East and West.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
That's right. So it's really getting a snapshot of your fertility before I start, especially if you haven't been able to conceive in 12 months. I need to make sure that, you know, we might need to flush your tubes. You know, you could have blocked fallopian tubes. You know, you might need to have the cysts removed, the fibroids removed. Some women have endometriosis, which needs to be excised or have some ablation. So it's like being a fertility detective. So I use the tools of Western medicine and merge it with the Chinese medicine. So yes, sometimes I attract the cases. Like I had one case recently, she'd been trying 5 years with endometriosis, and she got pregnant working with me. We also worked alongside IVF. So I work with and without IVF. But ideally, I always try and encourage the natural way as much as I can.
I see. But then you also...
I also work with IVF. Absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of patients in my program. I've got a 12-week pregnancy accelerator program, and I support women on that journey, you know, all the different stages of going through IVF, you know, when they're going through the stem phase, and they've got to extract all of the follicles, and the drugs have undesirable side effects, especially on the women's psyche, their ability to, their lymphatic drainage, their circulatory system. So the Chinese medicine really works harmoniously with IVF.
Right.
As well. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that? So at what stage do you get into the IVF process to help them with the Chinese medicine?
It can come in different ways. I might be working with somebody, they've been trying for 12 months, we've done all the tests, we've tested the sperm, and we've been unsuccessfully able to get them pregnant. So sometimes women will pursue IVF after that course of action. But, some women age might be against them. They're in a hurry. Right. They're business executives. They want to do this now. They feel like they're running out of time. They've got low AMH levels. They're worried. They're stressed. Their egg reserves are low. Things like that. So women might come and see me. They might be diagnosed with premature ovarian failure and things like that. So they'll start working with IVF, and they want to work with me to balance them as they go through the process.
Is there some
Generally, I'll get women to work with me 3 months before they start IVF, so we can lay the foundation. Because really, it's about what you do 3 months before the actual process. So in an ideal world, we'd love 12 months of prep time. But as a general rule of thumb, I generally do 3 months prep work before we'll go into an IVF cycle.
Amazing. I see. So is there any type of women that are unable to just use Chinese medicine? So is there some point that you have to do IVF?
Yeah, there can be, especially if there's been structural issues, tubal ligation, you've been sterilized, you may have had an ectopic pregnancy where your fallopian tube has been removed, and or you might have had an ovary removed. There can be structural things that can impact your ability to conceive. So when there are those structural things going on, there may be even, DNA fragmentation in the sperm or really low morphology. So IVF can be the best course of action for that couple. It's just about really understanding. It's never a case. It's never one size fits all. Yeah. It's always tailored to fit what those needs are. And sometimes I might have same-sex couples wanting to conceive, so you might be doing IVF there. It just depends on what the scenario is.
Yes,
I have
definitely.
all different scenarios. Donor eggs, surrogates, all these really interesting case studies.
Definitely. So do you also you'll treat them as a couple?
Yes.
So everyone is treated as a couple. So sometimes the woman takes Chinese medicine and then man also takes different Chinese medicine. How does that all work?
Well, definitely. I think that when you come into this fertility niche, it's 50-50%. You're providing the eggs and the sperm. So I like to get them in together. I usually work with them together. So I get them to do weekly acupuncture, and I'll get them to, I'll go through their bloods, I'll go through their scans, their hormone profiles. We structure a program so it will work on what supplements they might need, depending on what's deficient, because we want to kind of get all of those, antioxidants, hormones in the optimal zone. Right. So sometimes you need to supplement them. Sometimes I will prescribe Chinese herbs. Most of the time I do. And, sometimes I'll be giving herbs to the husband for, utilizing the sperm, improving the morphology, the motility, all the parameters, sperm count. So it really is a holistic, integrative way of working with the couples. And then I teach them meditative practices, like the 5 languages of love. I don't know if you know Brene Brown, but because when you're going through this process, what tends to happen is the relationship can suffer. So I do a lot of relationship counseling where finding out what your husband's language of love is. Is it physical touch? Is it quality time? Is it acts of service? Is it gift giving? Or words of affirmation? These are the 5 love languages, and it's about tuning back into your partner. Because this process, years and years of struggle, some people may be struggling for years or months, and it can really disconnect the couple. So for me, it's about bringing that union back between the divine man and the divine feminine,
That's amazing.
We're all in this together.
That is amazing. So this is definitely the first time that I've heard of, a Chinese medicine doctor to be so holistic. So not just, not just treating the body, but also treating the mind and soul, really.
Yeah. And I get the husband involved because I think it's really important. We'll do the femoral massage, and I'll teach them how to do that on their wife, and show them the leg yin meridians that we can massage when we're waxing onto ovulation. So they really become hands-on, because this is the thing. I want you to be able to practice this medicine with or without me. That I give people the tools and the strategies, and often I can work with people and they can go, well, I've learned so much, and even if it's not getting pregnant in that 3-month program,
right,
but they have the tools and the strategies and the techniques to be able to apply it. And then sometimes I'll get a call 3 months later, we've done it, and it's on the chart, and we got to see it. And, it's really exciting because people, they can start to observe the data and understand and interpret it themselves. That's what I teach people.
That is amazing. So it's sort of kind of just getting people to change their lifestyle to be able to be a fertile couple.
And you know what? Here's the thing. The reality is, in Chinese medicine, when the body is balanced, when you're not too stressed, when you're eating well, when you're eating the right nutrition, the macronutrients that your body needs for making high-quality embryos and conceiving, then your body's that naturally fertile when it's balanced. But what's happened in this Western world is where we work too much, we train too hard. Do you know what I mean? It's fast paced. It's like a Formula One lifestyle.
Yeah.
And when it's like we all need to slow down and come back to the present moment, to tune in. What does our body need? What does our nervous system need? How can we manage that? And when you really are in tune and in the moment, your body is fertile. Our natural state is fertile.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. So what are some things that parents should consider, before they're, how should they treat their infertility issues?
Well, I like to look at it like this. If you're about to run a marathon, you do your training, right? You eat the right nutrition, you start training for the event. So the event is, ovulation, conception. So I usually say have 3 to 6 months as a preparation. And that means detoxing the body, clearing out the alcohol, making the lifestyle changes. Alcohol goes, sugar, toning that down, getting rid of dairy, gluten, all of these things that create an inflammatory response in the body. And if there's too much inflammation, the body's ability to conceive and be receptive to new life is compromised. So I do a big cleanup, like a liver detox, hydrate, eating an anti-inflammatory diet. And so this is it's understanding what toxins and pollutants am I putting into my body. I also, with the men, taking the mobile phones out of the pocket because it affects the spermatogenesis. So you want to avoid laptops off the lap, mobile phones out of the pockets.
Wow.
The ball, the underwear not tight. So, men might wear boxer shorts so that the testicles are a little bit cooler. They're not compressed and they're not overheated, things like that. Then it's like getting the pillars in place, sleep, like so many people have issues with sleep.
Yeah.
So it's getting to bed before 10 o'clock. I say to people, every hour you get to sleep before 12 is worth 2 hours. So get into bed 8:30, 9. But if you get to sleep at 10 o'clock, it means you're getting an extra 4 hours of sleep. What that does to your organs. Yeah, nourishes your liver, your organs, all these things are yin, which is what we need. We need an abundance of yin to nourish and ripen those follicles. And most of us are depleted in yin, We're in overdrive, where our cortisol's up to here. So we need to bring the cortisol down, down, down.
Can you describe to our listeners what the yin is? I mean, I know what this is, but I'd like for everyone to hear about this.
Well, it's a philosophy of looking at the polarities in life, like the yin is the moon and the sun is the yang. And you can find those polarities in everything that we do, that duality. And it's about finding a homeostatic balance, not only in the universe. You can see when it's out of balance. We have something like COVID hit, and now it's a time of yin where the pollution's all going down because we're all static. Everything is slowed down. It's almost been a healing time for the planet going through COVID, as tragic as all the deaths and things like that are. But it's a time of replenishment, a time of yin.
I totally agree with you. And a time of connecting, across the world, which I love. I love this.
I know. Absolutely, Sarah. So we're always trying to follow that balance and find that balance in our bodies physiologically, finding that homeostatic balance between yin and yang. There's a time to be active. There's a time to be receptive. So at night, clearly, it's a yin time. It's a time to be receptive. It's where the organs are replenished. And then when the sun is high in the sky, that's when there's movement in the body. That's when there's yang in the body. So the interplay of the yin and yang, you can find it in everything that you look at, that duality.
Is there a certain time of day that people are more fertile? That being said,
testosterone is higher in the morning. So I encourage a lot of my couples to step into morning sex, So there's an abundance of testosterone for men and women in the morning. So, I just say play with what feels right for you. There are no rules. Some people are morning people, some people are not morning people.
Right.
So it's about finding what works for you. So when you're trying to conceive, I think you've got to shake it up, because baby making sex can be monotonous. So that's why I go, try it in the morning, try it in the shower, have a bath together. Just do what feels right for you. Listen to your body's cues.
And is there any certain foods that you would recommend?
Yes, absolutely. You've got all your Brassicas. There's an abundance of Brassicas that I encourage because it helps with the excretion of estrogen in the body, and you want to metabolize hormones. So I love all your Brassicas, your cruciferous vegetables, and that's giving you all your vitamin C and your nutrition. You've got things like magnesium. You're talking in terms of food and nutrition. So your leafy greens, spinach, silver beet, things like that.
Sorry, could you break down what a brassica is?
A brassica, it's the Brassica family. They're the cruciferous vegetables.
Okay.
So what they are broccoli, cabbage, bok choy. Kale is king, kale is my favorite. But I always recommend that you saute it. So you just want to look at a rainbow of colors with what you're eating for fertility. Look at things that are in their whole essence, whole grains, oats, rice, quinoa, beetroots, carrots, all your beta-carotene things. So you've got your bell peppers, your strawberries, your blueberries, your avocado. These are all your fertility building foods, your omega-3s, your salmon, things like that. You can supplement with your omega-3s, you can supplement with magnesium, but I'm a big fan of going, all right, let's get the selenium from a Brazil nut.
Yes.
Nutrition is far paramount to what you can supplement with. So, if you do have those nutritional deficiencies, yes, supplement. But where is possible, get the macronutrients from your food. Get your protein, your carbs, your fats, with nutrition.
I feel this is great advice for anyone. Not just people who are trying to get pregnant, who are trying to be fertile, but I think this is great advice just to be healthy in general.
Absolutely. It's a healthy mind, healthy mindset. When you're eating like this, it's like the mind is calm, you're more zen, you're more productive, you're getting all those antioxidants for your energy stores and the mitochondria. So, everything's all about the mitochondria. Those cells need to be really healthy, especially for conception. But it means that, even eating this way, it means you're healthy for life. You don't have to be eating this way just for conception. Eating this way will give you a harmonious balance for life. If you're a business executive and highly stressed, eating like this will alkalize your body. If you're training for an event, a marathon, or,
Yes.
you know what I mean, a bodybuilding competition, it doesn't matter what you're training for, but this is a way of eating for life.
I noticed that everything that you said is vegetables, but there's no meat that you mentioned.
Oh, yes, of course, protein, lean meats. I mean, I'm a big fan. Chinese medicine is, we're not anti-meat. Clearly, we're largely plant-based, you know. So, but the thing is, when we're big on bone broth, you know, bone broth is one of the key things in fertility. It's like the elixir of life. So it has all the building blocks, all the amino acids, all the minerals, the collagen, the protein, the fat. So, you know, bone broth, a cup of bone broth a day keeps the doctor away when it comes to fertility. But you could use that if you have back pain, if you have knee pain, if you have prolapse, you know, it's good for your brain health. You know, so we're not anti-proteins or anti-meats, you know, but we tend to go for more grass-fed, ethically sourced, organic, free range, that kind of thing, and go for the leaner types of things, lean beef, your eye fillet steaks, you know, your chicken thighs or your breasts, and, you know, things like not so much deep frying, but it could be grilling or baking or slow cooking.
And so do you usually, like for something that you've just said to me as right now, is that something you tell your patients as well? How much of the advice that you give as in terms of lifestyles changes pretty much just turns them into, you know, they have a baby because of this advice, and then you've not actually done what's traditionally thought as Chinese medicine, going through the acupuncture and the Chinese medicine, you know, the herbal packages and things like that.
Well, Chinese medicine integrates all of this. Like nutrition is one of the pillars of Chinese medicine. So, you know, normally I will integrate the acupuncture with the nutrition and the herbs. And it's a holistic way of approaching it. But, you know, just applying some of this stuff, like in my Pregnancy Accelerator group, I've got a private Facebook group and women can join all around the world. And I have women that just come into the group, not really even working with my program, but they follow all of my advice, because you can ask me any question in the group and I'll answer to you, and they share their stories. But I have women that get back to me and say, thank you so much. I've followed all of your advice. I'm now pregnant. I'm now, you know, it's wonderful to see it, you know, people utilizing it. And I loved sharing the knowledge. You know, I just think it's to be shared. I would rather people be empowered with this knowledge. You know, back in the old days when I first started Chinese medicine, the knowledge was hidden. They didn't share so much. Whereas my heart is open. My heart's on my sleeve. I've got nothing to hide. What I give to the forum and to give, that's the value that I want to give humanity. I want to share it with everyone, whether you can afford to do the coaching with me or not. I like to share it in the forum. So if people have a question, what can I eat instead of having calcium and dairy? What are some ideas on, what is your idea on having a better form of calcium through nutrition? And I'll answer those questions for them.
That's amazing. I love that philosophy of just sharing. Sharing is caring, just having everybody
the love,
come together.
You know? Well, it's like we are, and especially with COVID, we are all in this together. You know, we need to come together, unite as one, and share, you know, by learning about people's struggles, it really empowers us in our own personal journey, you know, and then you feel like you're not alone, because there's so many women that are suffering in silence. They're on the IVF warrior journey, or they're just suffering, even trying to get pregnant naturally, you know, and I wanted to provide a forum where women could come out and express themselves, and they can ask me any question. They won't be judged. There'll always be love and inspiration and support for them.
I mean, I've just spoken with a woman who had a 10-year IVF journey, and now has 3 beautiful children. But I think she definitely would have learned a lot from you, from what you're saying now. I mean, it's grueling. I wanted to just cry when I heard the story of how long and how tedious it is, you know, how many appointments, you know, and, you know, everything you just have to think about that, you know, the mental health aspect of,
Absolutely.
infertility.
And this is a big part of it. I get women to dream again. Part of the work that I do is not just that they're all the physical aspects, but then I go into the metaphysical. Have you had birth trauma? What was your experience giving birth? There's a lot of women that I work with that have had birth trauma, which can be an obstacle to getting pregnant. So it's looking at women that may have gone through accidents, they may have had a serious car accident, or they may have an autoimmune condition, which is really hindering their ability to conceive. So it's like looking at those traumas, opening it up, doing the work, healing those things. It could even be emotional things that women are going through, anxiety, depression, do you know what I mean? Chronic fatigue. Chronic illness like endometriosis, right. It's really a holistic approach. So, then I get women to learn the meditative aspects of it, to dream again. Because really, when you're trying to conceive, you've got to have your heart open. In Chinese medicine, the heart connects to the uterus. We have this invisible meridian which connects the heart to the uterus via this meridian called the Bao Mai. And with women, when they've been struggling for so long, the heart gets hard. The layers, the protection, the walls come in, right? And so I have to open women up again, like opening up the lotus flower, because they've come from the mud. They're in the mud. And, when we're working with fertility, we've got to let that lotus open again. It's got to open up. You've got to bring the joy back in. So... my work is so deep, and and a lot of these women, they're afraid to dream again. They're afraid to open up. They're afraid to hope. So I like to hold that pillar of hope for women to dream again. I give them the encouragement, and I implore them to go, you've got to let the miracle come through. You've got to open up your heart, invite the miracle of life into your womb space. Allow the healing to begin.
Amazing. Yeah. I absolutely love what you are saying. Bring in that space, allow the lotus to open, to dream again. On that note, is there any words of advice you'd like to give to our listeners out there?
Well, I've got a tattoo on my wrist, on my forearm, and it's in Italian. My husband's Italian. It says "Crederci sempre, arrendersi mai," which means always believe, never give up. Now, it's on the pericardium channel. I've put it there for a reason, because on this journey, so many women, they go out, they give up. And I'm saying, keep believing. Just always believe. Because if this is your divine path and this is something that's in your heart, always believe, never give up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for all the wisdom and love that you've expressed today in our chat. How can everyone find you?
Well, I've got my Pregnancy Accelerator program on Facebook with Fiona Tassoni, Dr. Fiona Tassoni. I've also got my Instagram page, which is Dr.Fiona Tassoni. And you can also find me on the pregnancyaccelerator.com website.
Okay, amazing. So reach out to Fiona if you'd like to hear more about this. And don't forget to follow at Kung Fu Mama Show on Facebook, IG, and our YouTube channel starring Sarah Chang. Thank you so much for all the insight. Let's all dream and always don't give up. Thank you so much.
Namaste.